Today, it's Wisconsin. We've also got the UP of Michigan, where it's not just about the rainfall. It's about the fact that we've had so much snow, and there's still snowmelt happening up there as well. And also just a couple of spots over into Michigan and lower Michigan where we've got flood watches in place. The atmosphere has been giving no breaks lately, and certainly not today. Now, let's look at what's coming our way with another feature that we're going to be watching, or just, I guess, another risk that we're going to be watching, which is the really strong wind threat. We've talked about the flooding, we've talked about the tornado risk, but winds themselves with thunderstorms can be over 75 miles per hour. And so the area that we're looking at for that wind threat is circled right here. We've got a couple of features in the atmosphere feeding into that. From the subtropical jet and just south of that, 18,000 feet above ground is where we're looking at. So a couple, more than a couple thousand feet up. But that air coming in very fast, bringing in moisture, but also bringing some strong winds, coupled with the fact that we've got our northern branch jet as well swinging in right across this area. So you've got multiple ingredients or inputs of stronger winds coming into this area. Moisture has been on the increase already. We've been watching that for days now. That there just hasn't been a change, nothing to clear out the air mass. And that's going to happen when the front comes through. But until that, we're going to have this severe weather risk because of it. So you've got the increased moisture. Moist air lifts really easily, and that instability has been growing over just the past couple of hours. You see these brighter colors indicating that in Oklahoma and in parts of Missouri, and that's moving farther north as well. So in spots like Kansas City and up into western Illinois, down through even St. Louis, we could have some pretty intense winds coming out of these thunderstorms. Again, that potential for straight line winds over 75 miles per hour. That kind of wind does pretty intensive damage. And falling trees are such a hazard. I want to make sure that you're ready for that kind of hazard. Don't park your car under a tree. Make sure that if there's a part of your house that is suspect to trees falling on it, maybe you don't want to be in that part of your house tonight. We've got these thunderstorms tracking in, especially late afternoon and evening. Also a 4 on the Torcon in this area, Kansas City, that does include you. So we'll put the forecast radar on and put the tornado parameter on the background. So that's the yellowish color you see at first. And initially, we'll keep an eye on thunderstorms perhaps across southeastern Kansas and maybe down into Oklahoma. We'll see if some of those storms there start to ingest some of the air that has that potential to rotate. That's what the tornado parameter is showing us. Once we get into the later evening time frame, the tornado parameter comes down, but now that damaging wind threat is still going to be there, and that'll be the main threat that we see as we get late night tonight into the overnight as storms progress eastbound, and then into the morning, wrapping up through the southern plains, but then heading through parts of the Tennessee Valley. We also have hail too. I mean, storms that rotate can bring some big hail, and that potential is out there for hail over 2 inches or greater in size. Really watching this area across the central plains as well. So there's a lot of hazards out there here today, Lynette. In fact, there's an area that could see over 3.5-inch size hail, and that will do some windshield smashing if that happens.
Exactly. So we're definitely going to have to keep our eye to the sky for that.
Today, one girl remains missing. This week, an evidentiary hearing was held as part of an ongoing lawsuit against Camp Mystic filed by her parents. Senior national correspondent Justin Michaels has a closer look at the testimony describing the night the flooding took place.
I'm sorry we had to be here under these circumstances.
The judge ruled that parts of the camp must remain closed until the investigation into the deadly flooding is complete. The camp plans to reopen its neighboring Cypress Lake location this summer. Looking back at what happened when it comes to the weather and the rainfall that just fell so quickly with some really intense rainfall rates, there were areas with more than 20 inches of rain in this river basin area. It led to catastrophic flooding, and there was widespread flooding. It wasn't just in Kerrville, but of course that was the most deadly location. Now we had that big footprint of rainfall with more than 20 inches in Bertram, in Streeter, in Marble Falls, in San Angelo. Again, it was this whole area in a very flood-prone area in the Texas Hill Country where the water can very quickly move downstream. Now, as we look at this deadly flooding reports going back to 2006 and 2020, that area has been hit before with, unfortunately, deadly flooding in this part of the country. Now, we have thunderstorms that have started. Well, I won't say thunderstorms. There's been one, actually, at the moment that we've been keeping an eye on south of Minneapolis. But we are anticipating more soon, and so is the Storm Prediction Center. They just issued the first severe thunderstorm watch of the day. It goes until 5 o'clock. It is a severe thunderstorm watch, and within it, there could be storms that fire up and bring winds of over 70 miles per hour and hail.
For 1 week as of today, and it's been a busy 7 days for them with jam-packed schedule. They've had very little downtime to readjust to life on Earth and get their bodies back, I should say, into rhythm with Earth's gravity.
Yeah, but more than that, as they said in a press conference yesterday, it's going to take them a while to process the experience they had as the first humans in deep space in 50 years. Listen now as they describe how this 10-day mission bonded them forever. Fantastic. Yeah, the mission inspired a new generation of space enthusiasts, the Artemis generation, including Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts.
Throughout the press conference, Reed said that they went as best friends and came back as they went as friends and came back as best friends. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yes, it really was here, and I love the moon fever that's happening.
Yes.
I mean, I'm seeing it firsthand around the country. I see it on social media. Exactly. I saw it firsthand in Florida, and even here. So it's exciting.
It is.
We're kind of back into going to the moon.
Exactly. All right, let's talk about the weekend.
Literally tracking the chance for thunderstorms and the risk for severe weather. But of course, you got to have that rain to get the rainbows. Let's first talk about wind shear. You'll hear us mention that with regard to the risk of severe weather. Wind shear is incredibly important in giving the atmosphere a chance to spin. Winds changing with height, and it all happens first near the surface. So where are the surface winds coming from? In this case, we're looking at Dubuque, Iowa, and winds are coming in from the south or even from the southeast. You know, they're gusty, but you go up a couple thousand feet and they're even stronger now, over 40 miles per hour, and shifted a little bit, maybe a little more from the south or southwest. You go up to 10,000 feet. Now they're shifting even more from the southwest, over 50 miles per hour, and west winds up at 20,000 feet, getting closer to 60 miles per hour. So you've got wind shear with changing wind direction with height, like you see here, but also wind shear with changing wind speed with height. And that allows the air potentially to start rolling. And it's these rolls of air that can get ingested up into the thunderstorms, which have that potential of helping the thunderstorm itself rotate and creating tornadoes. It's, you know, obviously more intricate than that, but sort of in the broad scale, that's what's happening. And you see that happening on a very wide-ranging scale here across parts of the upper Midwest. We've got the surface winds, that's the blue, coming in from the southeast. Then you've got winds at just a couple thousand feet up, coming in more from the southwest. It really is those lowest levels in the atmosphere that matter when it comes to producing the rotation in a thunderstorm. That's where all the action is, right? Closer to the ground. And we've got that risk with a 5 on the Torcon in this area where we really do have that changing of winds with height, the increasing wind speed, shear with height, where we've got a 5 on the Torcon, and that does include cities like Dubuque, and that's where I was showing you the winds from, but also up through La Crosse and eastbound into northwestern parts of Illinois as well. La Crosse, you have a 5 on the Torcon. We also have another threat, though, with some damaging winds likely, and even some big hail is possible here as well. So on a day with a 5, it means a few tornadoes likely. You need to monitor the forecast closely. Tornado watches could be issued, and intense EF3 tornadoes are possible. Making sure you have a plan today, ready for warnings, and know where you will go if indeed you're under a warning. Lynette.
All right, Jen, everybody needs to stop